post-cabinet press briefing. Today is September 25, 2024. And this morning, our guest will be the Honorable Floyd Green, our Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, who is our new face of agriculture. We were to have had some reps from the UWI Guild of Students, but I'm told they will not be with us this morning. Other specially invited guests are always members of the media who are here. Jamaicans watching at home and abroad, good morning again. I will start with a few updates in terms of activities from the past week. The first one is 4 new health centers in St. James. And thanks to Dr. Christopher Tufton, our extraordinary Minister of Health and Wellness, the residents of St. James are set to benefit from the construction of 4 new health centers in the parish. The $500 million project funded by the National Health Fund will see facilities being built in Farm Heights, Norwood, Maroontown, and New Hampton, with work scheduled to begin in January 2025. Another very encouraging thing that we saw last week was in relation to the Social Development Commission. They held a 2-day business clinic on September 18 and 19, focused on empowering grassroots entrepreneurs. And Minister Desmond McKenzie and the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development is very much interested in empowering our communities. And one of the best ways we can do that is to give our entrepreneurs the tools to expand their businesses. And so the event hosted at the SDC office in Kingston brought together 25 professionals who are budding entrepreneurs, what they were doing was really trying to formalize their businesses, showing them how to do that, how to develop growth strategies for their business, and how to access funding and other support services available across government. And so they collaborated with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, the company's Office of Jamaica, and Heart NSTA Trust. The strategic initiative is to provide grassroots entrepreneurs with the knowledge and tools they need to formalize their businesses and to really see the growth of these small businesses. So we congratulate those 25 professionals who went through that training. The USF is also distributing tablets across the country, and the Universal Service Fund has begun this distribution already, and they expect to distribute 630 tablets by October 2. Each member of Parliament will be provided with 10 tablets, and they are to ensure that deserving students have access to the digital tools necessary for their academic success. And all recipients are selected based on their academic performance and family income. So it's not just anyone who gets it. So they have to be performing really well, and they have to be a family that actually needs the support. And then also there's an added requirement of access to Wi-Fi to optimize the use of the tablets. And this Connect a Child program was introduced during the 23-24 academic year, and it focuses primarily on those who are doing PEP, and it was established under the leadership of Minister Darrell Vaz. In terms of the de-shifting of schools, the Minister of Education, the Honorable Favour Williams, is doing what many have talked about for a long time, and she has removed 11 additional schools from the shift system, reducing the number of schools still using the system to only 34. And some of the latest schools to be de-shifted include Ocheria's Primary in St. Anne, Bridgeport High School in St. Catherine, and Papine High School in St. Andrew. And of course, the government remains committed to eliminating the shift system in all schools in Jamaica. On September 19, Minister Robert Morgan and residents of Woodhall, Clarendon welcomed the newly installed free Wi-Fi hotspot provided by the Universal Service Fund. And this has been happening across all our communities across Jamaica, where we have free community Wi-Fi stations being installed, which are aimed at enhancing education in the community and empowering our students. Another one, there's a lot going on in healthcare. One more that I'll point out before I have the Honorable Minister come is the Malvern Health Center reopening. And I remember the beautiful hills of Malvern when I was a child, spending a lot of time in Malvern. The Malvern Health Center in St. Elizabeth has officially reopened after undergoing a $54 million renovation as part of the Ministry of Health and Wellness's Operation Refresh program. Minister Tufton has been personally driving Operation Refresh, and the upgraded facility now offers nearly 1,000 square feet of space with new offices, an expanded waiting area, a larger records office, and designated areas for public health inspectors. And these renovations are really, really important, and they show how important the Ministry of Health sees improving customer service, improving the experience of patients, and also having a better environment for all our workers in the health system. And there are many more health-related updates, but I'm going to stop there for today, and maybe I'll pick some of them up at our next Cabinet press briefing that have been missed by the media. So now I'm going to go to the Honourable Minister who is here, the Honourable Floyd Green, our Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. Good morning, Minister.
Morning, Senator Morris Dixon, and thank you. Always a pleasure to join you here at our post-cab press conference. I'm morning to members of the media. So we're going to speak a little bit about our agriculture and fisheries sector and provide some updates regarding our recovery efforts in relation to Hurricane Beryl. Yesterday I provided a comprehensive update to Parliament, and I'll share some of that and a few other things. In the weeks following Hurricane Beryl, one of the things that we did was to visit a number of the areas that were hardest hit, just to see firsthand the experience of our farmers. Clearly, my own constituency, I visited multiple communities. A number of the farmers were completely devastated. I journeyed to Bog Hole over in northern Clarendon, where they didn't have challenges with the rain, but with the wind, but unfortunately, the rain and the flooding wiped out the vegetable lines. Bog Hole, if you don't know, is a big lettuce growing area, cabbage growing area in northern Clarendon. And we went all over. We went to southern Trelawney, we went to St. Mary, just to speak with the farmers, to encourage the farmers, and to say to them that we will respond, and we will respond quickly. We understood that the only way to rebuild our agricultural sector is to be proactive in our response mechanism and to get to as many farmers as possible. And that is why 2 weeks after Hurricane Beryl, we started our first distribution of inputs. This is the quickest any government has responded to any natural disaster. We started in South St. Elizabeth, giving larger farmers vegetable seeds so that they could start again. Our mission has been clear. It's to restore agricultural production, rehabilitate essential infrastructure, and to provide robust support to our farmers and fishers to ensure that they can reclaim their livelihoods and emerge stronger than before. As such, we have been working with our teams on the ground, rather the Rural Agricultural Development Authority and the National Fisheries Authority, who have led this recovery effort. So the government has committed an additional $1.4 billion towards Hurricane Beryl recovery program. So far, nearly $900 million has been expended through the Rural Agricultural Development Authority and the National Fisheries Authority and our other agencies. This funding has been strategically directed towards the provision of critical recovery items, including the provision of seeds and fertilizer, restoration of livestock, rehabilitation of agricultural infrastructure, and technical assistance and training for our farmers. One of the things that we've been very clear on when we started our Hurricane Beryl recovery effort is to keep good records, is to have the data so that we can say how many farmers have been impacted, where have they been impacted, what have they received, also to ensure that we avoid duplication of effort, because the private sector is helping, we're helping, NGO communities are helping, and there are a number of farmers, thousands of farmers and fishers that were impacted. So we established a Hurricane Beryl Recovery Task Force chaired by Director of the Ministry, Michael Price, and that pulls together all our recovery efforts. So thus far, we have been able to And I'll go through a number of different categories, right? So thus far, we've been able to mobilize and to successfully replant 630 hectares, which is 1,557 acres of agricultural crops have already been replanted. And we focused on cabbage, tomato, lettuce, carrot, sweet pepper, cucumber, and watermelon. This has really, and if you go out into the field, you will really see what we saw a few weeks after burial, these barrel fields really being transformed into now flourishing plots. And I really want to pause here to celebrate our farmers and fishers. They are the most resilient people in the entire world. And, you know, one reason why I love to go out after a natural disaster, clearly nobody wants a natural disaster. But when you engage with our farmers, when you engage with our fishers, they bring so much hope. I remember when I went to South Trelawney and I spoke to Valentine and Robert, two yam farmers. And again, they have different challenges in relation to yamrus, and we can speak a little bit about that. Or when I went to Delroy Green, and there's a wonderful video, and all of you should check our RADA Instagram pages, because we have been sharing videos of real people who've gotten assistance. And Delroy said, Minister, what are we going to do? We have to plant again. We have to get back out there, because this is what we do to feed the nation. So I really want to commend our farmers. So we have been, thus far, we've been able to reach to 14,370 farmers from the parishes of St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Westmoreland, Trelawney, and St. Anne. Those have directly benefited from our recovery efforts. And this is just through RADA. What you will find is as I go, you will hear other numbers, and these are in addition. So in total, we've already touched over 15,000 Jamaican farmers. We've already distributed over 10,000 packs of seeds, primarily focusing on high-demand crops like cabbage, tomato, sweet pepper, and have provided critical support for other things like our melons or cantaloupes, things of that nature. Outside of that, we have supplied 6,500 bags of fertilizer to our most severely affected areas. We have also focused on livestock. Again, when I came right after burial to post-cabinet, we spoke about the fact that we lost about 300,000 birds in Hurricane Beryl. So we have been focusing on replenishing our poultry stock, on providing veterinary service, and helping farmers to repair their infrastructure. So already we've earmarked and started to distribute about 57,000 birds, again, focusing on the hardest hit parishes, and that is to ensure that we replenish that stock, and that is happening apace. But importantly, this is the first time we're doing this from the ministry, recognizing that a number of our farmers, especially those small backyard farmers, lost their infrastructure, so they lost their chicken houses. So it wouldn't make sense we provide the chickens and not help them to be able to build back those structures. So we earmarked $26 million to help our farmers, especially those small poultry farmers, build back their chicken houses. And again, there's a wonderful story of Mr. Cranston down in Clarendon. He is a visually impaired chicken farmer, and we have a special program for those who have special needs. So normally we may give 50 chicken, 100 chicken. For those who have special needs, we try to handhold them. So he would have received, for example, 200 chicken, 36 bags of feed. We would have done the wire and sent in the team to fix back his infrastructure and then to provide some training for him. One of the things that we recognized through Hurricane Beryl is that a number of our roads, our farm roads, suffered some damages, and as such, we've earmarked $70 million to do some minor work on about 51 roads across the length and breadth of Jamaica. It's critical to note that this does not trouble our already existing farm road program. And I made that point in the House yesterday. I think it's an important point for us to know that our recovery efforts are not stopping the regular course of action by the Ministry of Agriculture. So the funds that we have gotten are in addition to the funds that we already had. So we have earmarked about 51 roads that we're going to be doing minor work on, and that should start over the next 2 weeks. But under our existing farm road program, already we've contracted 21 roads of a total 46 roads that we're looking to do this year, and that work has already started. Our recovery efforts clearly extend beyond direct support in terms of financial support or inputs. Part of what we've been doing is to provide training. And we find that after any disaster of this nature, it's important that we conduct training about sustainable agricultural practice, climate resilience, and disaster preparedness. I have to thank the private sector. They have played a pivotal role in our recovery efforts. In total, we've already received about $81 million from our private sector partners towards recovery efforts, and outside of that they've given directly to the ministry, we estimate that they have put into the recovery efforts an additional $40 million. So our private sector entities and our NGOs have really come on board in a very big way. Clearly, we are not leaving out our fishers. And we had about 11,000 fishers that were significantly impacted. And we took about a month for us to do a proper assessment, how our fisheries sector is set up. Most of our fishers use fish traps. They go out, they leave them at sea, they come back, and then they go out to pick them back up. And after Hurricane Beryl, we had to give them some time to go out to see what was their extent of their losses. Unfortunately, a number of them did not find their fish traps. Their fish traps were totally lost. So we started with an initial allocation of $29 million, and we have already been able to help 580 fisher folks, largely with cash vouchers to purchase fishing gear and assistance in helping them repair some of the buildings that were damaged. So we've already, some of the things that we've done under our fisheries, National Fisheries Authority, and this may have missed some people. One of the things that we did early after Beryl was to go into some of our fishing communities and distribute ice so that they would be able to store their fish. And we distributed about 11,000 pounds of ice. We've already helped fishers across Scotts Cove, White House, Portland Cottage, Rocky Point. In St. Thomas, we've helped 146 fishers. In St. Catherine, we've provided $700,000 to help the Half Moon Bay fisher folk, that's over in Helshaw, to help them repair their cooperative building. And this is a part of a larger program. And I want to thank some of the private sector partners who've helped us directly in the fisheries sector. So Sanders Foundation would have donated $2.5 million, including 62 1.5-inch mesh wire, and those were distributed across Rocky Point, Portland Cottage, Parity, and Great Bay. NCB Foundation and Rainforest have earmarked $10 million to help us with the Fisheries Beach development projects. And just to say, outside of this $29 million, we have earmarked $100 million to help our fishing beaches in relation to building back, especially their gear sheds that they lost, and just to do an overall rehabilitation of our fishing beaches. We have also distributed some resources to our members of parliament. We have prorated the resources based on the level of damage, and members of parliament who had damage in Hurricane Beryl. And we've distributed resources in relation to agriculture in total about $100 million, and in relation to fisheries in total an additional $50 million. So we do know that the journey is going to be long, but we are seeing some positive signs. You know, what I'm very happy about is that we've started already to see local production re-emerge, which is actually, and this is local production from the areas that were hardest hit, which is actually an amazing feat, because we had earmarked that local production would return sometime in October. And clearly we have been tracking prices. The Ministry of Agriculture does not control prices, but we do track prices just to see what is happening as we look at our production numbers. And not last week, but the week before was the first week that we saw a decline in some of those items that had gone up significantly since Hurricane Beryl, things like tomatoes, things like lettuce, and we've seen that decline continue last week. So we do see that we're getting back to some semblance of normalcy. This is not the end by any stretch of the imagination. The journey does continue, and it is a long road. We had about 48,000 farmers who are impacted, so we will continue to roll out our recovery efforts. We will continue to provide updates, and we will continue to work with our farmers. So the progress thus far is promising. The resilience and commitment of our farmers, combined with the support of the government and our partners, have been paving the way for a stronger, more sustainable agricultural sector in Jamaica. I say to all of us, let us continue to support our farmers. Remember, when you go to shop, and I know sometimes they say, boy, you know, we've gone through a rough time, prices have gone up, but it's either you're supporting a local farmer or you're supporting a farmer somewhere else. right? It makes sense that we continue to buy local so that our farmers and our fishers are encouraged to continue to go out and do the work. So let us continue to support our farmers. Let us work collaboratively to ensure that they not only recover from this disaster, but thrive in years to come. Together, I am confident that we can build a resilient agricultural landscape that will secure our nation's food future. One final thing. I know a lot of people get concerned in relation to Christmas, and Christmas is on the horizon. That's when we have a significant demand in everything, all sorts of food items. Based on what we're seeing now, based on the pace of the recovery, based on the support that we have provided, we do expect that we will have a good Christmas. We do expect that we will have adequate supplies, especially of our vegetable lines. Again, we're working with our chicken farmers to try and ensure that we build back that domestic, local, small chicken producers segment. We also are going to be starting our distribution of pullets, that's our layer chickens, so that we can help build back our egg sector, so that come Christmas, we all will have a Merry Christmas. Thank you, Senator.
Not sure if there are any questions for him, but it's been very good to hear, especially that local production is starting to reemerge, Minister. When I couldn't get the tomatoes at the prices I wanted, I got seedlings, and unfortunately, they haven't done so well. One plant has 3, another one has 2 baby tomatoes, and none of the others have anything. So I am very glad to hear that production is reemerging, because my experiment has not worked. I will open it up to Naomi.
Good morning, Ministers. Keep at it, Minister. You will develop that green thumb at some point. Minister, let me start off with just I think somebody online wanted to drill down a little bit in terms of the Christmas crop season. And I get the underlying tone that even in September, you're starting to wish people a Merry Christmas. That's very nice of you. In relation to the yam and banana sectors, they wanted to really drill down on how those 2 sectors are recovering.
Yeah, so definitely in relation to banana, in terms of the recovery work that we're doing in banana now. So I'll speak about the recovery, and I'll speak about how long it will take. So our banana sector was one of the hardest hit sectors. We lost about 64% of our total banana production, right? That is significant. A number of our farmers, at least 73 of our major banana farmers, lost over 50% of their crops. Normally it takes 7 to 9 months for our banana crops to recover. We have started work. We did an initial allocation of $40 million through the Banana Board that has reached about 2,300 banana farmers. And what we do is that we provide them with fertilizer, right? And we put them on a 6-week regime for them to try and bring back those crops. So that is happening apace. When we met with the Banana Board and they outlined their program, we recognized that a lot of the smaller banana farmers, those who operate on less than 0.2 hectares, were not initially included, right, just based on the resources that we had. So we have allocated an additional $38 million to reach those small farmers. We've identified over 500 of them through RADA, and we've started that distribution again, fertilizer, training, putting them on a regime. So our banana and plantain sector will not rebound until 7 months from July. So next year, or maybe February, thereabout, that's what we're looking at. And that's just the reality, because it just does take some time. Our yam farmers, we had a mixed bag in relation to our yam farmers. So in some areas, they didn't suffer tremendous damage from Hurricane Beryl. However, in parts of Clarendon, a number of the yam stakes blew down, and then when your yam stakes blow down, then the production falls. So we have been again working with the yam farmers. We've had a targeted program around yam, because yam is such an important staple, not just locally. Yam is our #1 domestic export. So we've been working again, providing inputs, providing fertilizer, helping our yam farmers to really pull back up. The biggest threat out there for yam has been the yam rust disease, right? And what we have done thus far is that we did allocate an initial $9 million, and we have provided a chemical regime to the farmers that were impacted by yam rust. We have set up 2 trial plots out in the field, and I think 3 trial plots, and we've used different regimes to see how the yam rust reacts to it. And we've come up with what we think is the best formulation of chemicals, and we've been distributing those. So I think we will be able to retard the spread of yam rust. So yam production will remain fairly stable, but right now, clearly it's stable at a low level. So there will be yam, but it won't be necessarily in abundance.
That's a big staple on the plate of many Jamaicans on Christmas morning, for sure. All right, Mahiri's here with us. He has a few questions.
No problem.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Right. Hi, Minister. Mahiri Stewart here from Nationwide News. Last week at post-cabinet media briefing, we're speaking to Senator Auburn Hill. He was talking about price gouging and the issue that it was causing, and the fact that he had been in talks with the Ministry of Agriculture to make sure prices were regulated. Could you speak on those talks and the ministry's stance on price gouging as a whole?
Yeah, so thank you, Mahir. Good question. So we had, from the Ministry of Agriculture, we had reached out to Minister Hill and the team at the Ministry of Industry for them to do the investigation around price gouging. So, you know, again, we don't control price, we don't set prices. We were concerned, and we had expressed that concern, especially in relation to us providing access to external markets. So clearly, looking at the downturn in supply, we have provided access to external markets around things that we don't normally provide access for. So a number of our vegetable lines. Clearly what was needed and what we have been working with the CSC to see is to look at the prices that those items are being sourced for, and then what those items are being retailed for, and to ensure that people were taking unfair advantage of the situation. So I know the CSC has been doing that work, right? I don't think they've concluded that work. We have been providing the information. Our information will be source information. You know, what is the market saying clearly in terms of the prices, what is Farmgate saying, and what are our traders able to source at. We would provide that information, and then that work would happen. Clearly, the big fix is really to up our local production and try to get local production up as quickly as possible. In agriculture, you will have these sharp rises in prices if the supply significantly declines, because the demand is consistent. Because again, food people eat every day. So, you know, if you like a tomato, people go out looking for tomatoes, and tomatoes downturn, then just natural economics will provide. What we didn't want and what we have been looking out for are not that when the supply comes back, people still taking advantage of the fact that people don't have that information. So that work is continuing.
Thank you, Minister. Minister Morris Dixon, I have a question from one of our regulars who's not feeling well today, really asking for, again, the update on the reports, AI report that it has gotten to Cabinet, and on the National Violence Prevention Commission's report, which was said to already be in the public domain. I don't think that is actually correct, but I'll just state the question and have you answer.
All right, and thank you very much. The AI task force report is done, and it is on its way to Cabinet. And as I said, I want to have the committee here. Hopefully the next time we have a post-Cabinet press briefing, we'll be able to bring the chair of that task force to talk about the results, because it's really very important, and it gave some really good suggestions in terms of how we can recraft things in our education system, also looking at the business sector, skills training. It went across everything, and even legislation that may need to change. And so I will ensure that we bring that report actually to this press briefing and talk through it. In terms of the Violence Prevention Commission, that work is not completed as yet. The chair is Professor Sams Vaughn, and she is an expert, especially in child development and in these types of areas also. And that committee has been working for some time, and they are putting together their recommendations. We expect that within months, hopefully it will be a little bit shorter than that, that their final report will be published. And once it is published, it will be disseminated to everyone, just like the one in relation to the education transformation was disseminated to everyone. That is the plan, to disseminate this. We know that one of the key concerns of every Jamaican is crime. And so this violence prevention task force and this commission is doing important work. It is tackling a key area that's of concern to every Jamaican. And so this report really belongs to all of us. And so we will make sure that it is widely circulated, and the government will go through it, Cabinet will go through it, and we will implement the recommendations of that report.
Thank you, Minister. Very important, because reports to the contrary really are not accurate that it is.
It is not available as yet.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think Mahiri has a final question or two.
Right. Last question would be, how close are we to 100, well, I shouldn't say 100% completion, but completion in general of the Farm Road program? I know we were speaking a couple months ago following the passage of Hurricane Beryl and the obstacles that were brought on because of that. But even since Beryl, we've had a couple instances of heavy rains across the island. Just want to know how that program is going.
Yeah, so, you know, we have made significant strides in our Farm Road program over the last 5 years. When we started this journey as a government in 2016, our Farm Road budget was around 200 million, a little less than 200 million, and we moved that to 1 billion before COVID, right? COVID came, gave us a little setback, and we've been on our road now trying to get back to that 1 billion. In general, I do believe that we need about $1 billion a year for the next 5 years or so to really treat with the majority of our farm roads, right? But what we have this year now, we got an initial allocation of $670 million plus an additional allocation of $200 million. So we have $870 million for our farm road program. We've earmarked 46 roads under our original allocation. The $200 million, we've decided to do it in two ways. One, there's some roads that we had done already that with the heavy rains, you know, they were done 4 years ago. They've started to see some deterioration. We don't want to lose those gains, right? So we're going to do some minor rehabilitation on those roads. So we've earmarked about 51 roads that we're going to ensure that we do some patching work, some minor rehab work on. The additional 130, we're going to do a special program in our Blue Mountain Range, right? They require bigger projects that we normally do from our farm road program. Normally we try to touch as much farm roads as possible, so we kind of do $10 million roads. In the Blue Mountain Range, you have to be doing 20 million and above, right? So I think we've already earmarked about 6 roads across East Rural, St. Andrew, West Rural, St. Andrew, Portland, St. Thomas, in that Blue Mountain Range to help our coffee farmers. We're going to do some work on that. So we continue. Last year we did 71 roads under the farm road program. So we are moving, and we are really getting to a number of the areas that were inaccessible. And when I tour and look at some of these roads and how far they've come, and clearly some members of parliament work with the farming groups, and we've done them in phases, but we've come a far way in relation to farm roads. Since I'm talking, I'll raise two more matters. And this is because Senator Morris Dixon spoke about her attempt at trying to have a green thumb. So a couple of things. I think Hurricane Beryl has really brought into sharp focus again the concept of food security and the need for every household in Jamaica to grow something, right? To grow something. Because, again, you have 3 now. 3 tomatoes. You had 0.
3 on 1 and
you
2
know,
on
so one of the things that we're going to do come October under what we call our Urban Harvest program is that we're going to be launching our backyard garden campaign again, and we're going to be issuing out we're going to start the process for people to apply for what will be about 3,000 backyard gardening kits, right? And again, we're going to be focusing a lot on the urban areas because sometimes when we think backyard gardening, we think you have to have a lot of space. That's not the case. We've developed modules around container gardening, and we're going to be sharing those modules so that people can use their old containers, use their tiles, grow some of the vegetables that they ultimately will need. So that is one. We're also going to be doing another program. We're going to start introducing vertical farms, right? So we're going to be giving out some vertical systems, and these are hydroponic systems. As the name suggests, it's vertical. It can hold a small space. We have some farms now that are using these vertical models. We're going to do about 250 of them, working with institutions and homes to start that process. Additionally, we lost a lot of fruit trees, right? We lost a lot of ackee trees, unfortunately. And ackee is our second biggest export from the agricultural perspective. So the truth is we have to start the process of rebuilding that now. So we have earmarked 30,000 fruit trees that we're going to be trying to work with our MPs, work with our NGO organizations to start a massive fruit tree replanting program, right? Again, most of the trees that we benefit from were planted long before we were born. We have to do this work for generations to come.
All right, thank you, Minister. There are no further questions.
Right. Thank you, Minister. It's always good to have you here. He does so much work. He is such a big proponent of our farmers, and he works tirelessly. And I always say, he's one of those ministers in cabinet who's like, what about the farmers? We need to talk about the farmers. And every week he has a submission for more money for the agricultural sector. So he really is advocating, and he's done so much work, and the ministry has done so much work, from ice to seeds to fertilizers to chicken wire, the works. They've been working to get our farmers back on track. And of course, as he said, local production is starting to reemerge earlier than expected, and we thank our farmers for all their hard work in that respect. And the last thing I'll say today is enumeration. The deadline to register for the upcoming voters list is Monday, September 30. And the new voters list is set to be published on November 30, 2024. We are a democracy. It is important that you are on the voters list. Applications submitted after September 30 will be processed for the next voters list, which is scheduled for publication on May 31, 2025. And if you want to register, remember, you must apply in person at an electoral office of Jamaica constituency office. It is important that all of us are on the voters list that is going to be used in any subsequent elections. And so that is it for today. Thank you for joining us again for another post-cabinet press briefing. Thanks to Minister Floyd Green for all his hard and tireless work in helping our farmers and our fishers across Jamaica. And to all of you, I say have a wonderful week, and God bless you, and God bless Jamaica.